Permitidme que pase a inglés y va a ser la única ponencia que vamos a hacer junto con el diálogo del final en inglés. So let me introduce Matt. Matt is coming from the States. He's part of our retail analytics team there. He's bringing us a very, very interesting experience in a very large retailer in US. Matt arrived yesterday, so probably he has a jet lag, so if you sleep a little bit, we will clap you to
wake me up,
to end the day. So Matt is...
Thank you. Hola, buenos dias. That's about all the Spanish I know, so the rest of this is going to be in English. So just to give you guys a brief introduction of myself, as you said, my name is Mathias Knippenberg. I am a business and systems integration consultant with Accenture, working at a large US retailer. My focus is kind of working with the business and client teams to translate some of the requirements into actionable things that our analytics team can work on. So for this speech, or for this topic, I'm going to start off with a little bit on digital intelligence, and then move into some of the use cases for some of the different things that we've been doing at the client. And then lastly, there's a couple things that Jose Luis touched on that I think I'll go a little off topic towards the end of my speech to kind of touch on, because I think there's a lot of good synergies with what we're doing at this client and what he was talking about. So to begin, digital intelligence, to kind of borrow from the Accenture technology vision, every business is a digital business, right? And so what does that mean? Customers are interacting in new ways. Almost everyone is having a mobile phone. Even in Africa, where there's not a lot of developed countries, everyone has mobile phones, right? And those all have digital exhaust. There's different emails, text messages, all the different ways that people are interacting with different businesses. That makes digital intelligence so important, right? And what we can do with that is use that digital exhaust, do analytics on it, and provide value out of all of that data that's being generated. And so it's really taking data and making it into information, which you could then drive analytics off of. And so how does that help in terms of business value, right? It drives increased brand preference and trust. So the more that you're able to interact with people where and when you want them to interact with you, the more you're driving brand preference and you're building loyalty with your customer base. This also leads to increased revenue and sales. So as part of helping meet people's needs, meeting customers' needs, it drives more revenue for companies and also can help reduce costs, right? So there's ways that you can use analytics, look at your digital exhaust, see where there's opportunities to improve and reduce your costs and different things that are impacting your business. Some other really valuable stuff out of digital intelligence is you're able to see different customer preferences, right? So while almost everyone has a mobile phone, not everyone wants to interact in that same way. And so you can use digital intelligence to figure out what's the right way to engage your customers. And not everyone's going to be the same, right? So it's providing some of that segmentation and that differentiation to see what's the right way to approach this person in this sense. So one kind of good example is, particularly on the client I'm working on, they're on a journey for personalization, right? They want to become more personalized and have more one-to-one interactions. And kind of a good way of looking at it, right? For this company, right? They're very large. They're pretty well known in the US. There's one of them, right? There's this one retailer. That's it. That's them, right? But this retailer, they have millions of customers. And so instead of it being a one-to-many type relationship for one company to many people, it needs to be a one-to-one. And that's a different mindset than a lot of these retailers are used to thinking of, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? There's a different, it needs to be a tailored experience. Maybe the content's different. Maybe the product assortment's different. Maybe the way that you interact and engage with them is different. It's all part of digital intelligence, and digital intelligence is really the way that we're starting to kind of learn and test and adapt and find our way into these solutions. So with that, in terms of this large US retailer, the project we started with was called Experience Platform. And the idea was to create a platform that's going to generate new experiences and differentiated ways of serving up content to customers. And so this covers a pretty large breadth of different topics. One of the easiest things for us to kind of do is new sales, right? And to generate new product recommendations that generate new sales that they wouldn't otherwise realize. The other thing is building a trusted advisor relationship. So the retailer I work at, they have a kind of a niche in the retail department. They're not, it's not a one set. They don't sell everything. So it's really building that trusted advisor relationship to say, if you come and shop with us, you'll get the best products. We'll help you understand and find out what's going to meet your needs, because we're going to listen, right? We're going to have a one-to-one conversation. We're not going to have a one-to-many conversation where you walk into a store, we say, everyone's buying this is what you want, see you later. It's this, we're trying to learn about what people's needs are before we try and recommend products to them. Loyalty is also a very big one of this client. They have a very strong loyalty base to begin with, and so personalization is something that's a little bit easier to do with your loyalty base because these people are already telling you more information than an average customer, right? So loyalty customers are saying, I shop here a lot. Here's my information. Here's where I live. I want points for this loyalty program so that I can be rewarded for my frequent shopping here. That helps kind of add into the one-to-one personalization of saying, I know who you are, you're telling me who you are, which makes personalization a lot easier, let's just say that. And then being able to use the information that they're telling you to drive better value and better customer experiences for these loyalty members. That kind of goes into overall satisfaction scores and having better omni-channel experiences. So when I say omni-channel, I mean kind of the combination of online and offline experiences, right? So it's very common that people shop online, they browse products online from their couch, their sofa, whatever, so they're a lot more comfortable in their homes, and then they might want to go into a store. And one of the challenges that this retailer has right now is they're struggling to kind of quantify the size of that prize, right? So it's kind of a known fact. People will be on their phones either in the store or at home, and then they'll go into a store to buy those products because everyone wants things today, right? I really want this item. I want to learn a little bit more about it. I want to make sure I'm getting the right one. But then I'm going to go into the store and get it because I don't want to wait 3 days for it to get shipped to my house. So that being able to kind of meet people where they are and when they're at is the journey that we're on in terms of personalization. And it's not an easy journey. And a lot of it has to do with testing and trying new ideas and failing quickly. It's one of the things that this client is starting to change their culture so that not everything has to be perfect by the time that they put it out the door. So a lot of this they leverage from Google and Facebook. They do deployments daily, right? They're daily changing their code base. They're having new experiences very frequently, and they're not afraid to fail. They're okay to put something out there that doesn't work well because they'll just take it down or they'll try something different. So that's a pretty big cultural change for this client, but it's something that they are working on, and it's starting to give a little bit more flexibility in terms of analytics and the things that you can try and put out different models for that. Social media is also kind of a big one to touch on. So a lot of companies are aware of social media. The challenge is picking the right way to apply it, right? So the client I've been working at, they have a team that's watching social media for, what's the word I'm looking for? From just kind of a perception standpoint, right? They're looking to see, are we getting blasted? Are we doing something wrong? Are people angry with our company on social media? That's just kind of one use case that you can use social media for. It doesn't necessarily help you with product recommendations in that sense because people aren't telling you what they like. They're more venting, right? They're upset and they want you to know that. So there's a lot of different ways to use social media that clients are starting to figure out what those distinct things are, as opposed to just saying, we want to do something with social media. It's kind of been an uphill challenge for us, but we're starting to kind of get traction in, there is social media, but what do you want to do with it? What are you trying to get out of it? Because there's a lot of different ways to use that data and make it valuable for your company in a plethora of different ways. So let's talk a little bit more about kind of the company. So as I've said, they're a large US retailer. Their main competencies are tax, as well as brick and mortar retailing. So in the States, we have 50 different states, and they all have different laws, different restrictions on what can and cannot be done. Tax is kind of a big one. There's a whole system that does tax. That's all it does for different cities, states, and zip codes. So the challenge was, they have a lack of, so kind of the first point, lack of analytical intelligence systems. I think it's more valid to say there's a lack of combined analytical systems. So they have like the Google Analytics, kind of the Omniture, Site Catalyst, web analytics stuff, but it wasn't combined with any of their other enterprise data warehousing activities. It's not combined with some of the insights that they're getting from the retail, the brick and mortar stores. So that's a challenge that my team hasn't necessarily been solving, but it does kind of play into the work that the team's doing overall. The other one is they get a lot of traffic. So 30 million page views a day online. It's definitely a lot of data to be working with. Definitely qualifies as big data. This happens every day, so it's kind of a fun challenge to go through all that. The other one is they have a ton of different products to recommend. So they have over 500,000 different products, and we're usually recommending anywhere from 1 to 5, right? So that's taking out of 500,000 products, what are the 5 that this one customer is going to like? And again, remember, it's to a personalized level that they want to get, which is more of a challenge of, how am I going to recommend the 5 products that you want out of 500,000? It's going to be different than what some of the people over here want or what some of the people over here are looking for. So it's a big challenge to kind of figure out what is the right product to present at the right time. The other thing is they want very real-time analytics, right? A lot of things in the US are online now. If it's not up there, if you're not catching the new trends, you've already missed out. By the time you know a trend's there, you've missed out if you haven't already capitalized it. So having things be real-time is a very relevant thing to them, and it goes into the way that we kind of architect a lot of the systems that we're deploying there. Also, this retailer is very cost-focused, as I'm sure many businesses are, particularly in terms of hardware and software costs, and making sure that kind of the platforms that we're developing aren't just more expensive than they need to be. So kind of the solution that we go with is to enhance the online channel, creating unique user experiences, so providing personalization. So one of the kind of the easy, low-hanging fruit that we started with was your recently viewed history. It's a very easy way to become personalized and one-to-one, right? The last 5 products that the people over here have looked at, it's going to be different than what these guys are looking at. It's going to be different than what I looked at. And it's not necessarily much of a recommendation other than we're able to handle all this volume, all that 30 million events, and pick out for each user what they've been looking at, and then serve it back up to them. And it's really amazing. We've put it in a couple different places on their website. One of the more interesting places is in the cart. If they have an empty cart, we show them their recently viewed history, and it has a really good engagement score, as well as leading to ultimate conversion, which can't be attributed 100% to this service because they have looked at it before. There's already some intent to purchase that item, but it just shows you that some very easy, low-hanging fruit can drive a lot of value and help close sales that customers would otherwise be struggling on the website trying to find that product again, compared to the other ones they've been looking at. And this recently viewed service allows you to quickly scan through a couple different items and pick out which one's the best one for you. So in order to kind of deliver this stuff, there's a bit of a process, right? And the first thing to do is kind of get to know the customer. You've got to understand the data and the things that people and customers are going for. So there's a lot of different dimensions to this, right? There's what and how they buy. Some people might, be morning online shoppers. They get up, they have a cup of coffee, they do a little shopping before they go to work. Other people might be more afternoon or weekend focused, or they have to check with their significant other, their spouse. Hey, honey, I was going to get this, this new big ticket item. What do you think, right? It's kind of a process in learning to understand from people when they're ready to buy and what information they need to help them feel comfortable that that's a purchase they want to make. There's also a geographic dimension. It's really interesting. We've done some analysis on search terms and the different items that people search for across different geographies. And it's very interesting to see, as a heat wave hits the East Coast, all the New York search terms are for air conditioners, right? Everyone's looking to stay cool, which is a different search term than in the West Coast where the weather's a little bit more temperate. So there is geographical dimensions to becoming more relevant and becoming more personalized with the content that you're presenting to customers. So in order to do this, we have been leveraging historical purchases. So it's pretty easy data to have. I mean, most businesses are keeping track of the products that they're selling for various other reasons. The trick to this is to be able to tie purchase data back to customers, right? To individual people to get to that personalization level. And that's where I was talking about the loyalty customers. They're kind of the low-hanging fruit of they're saying, hey, I want to be a frequent customer. I shop here a lot. I want you to know me. I want you to get points every time that I make a purchase. Makes it a little bit easier to track their historical purchases than the people who are just kind of one and done. They come to their store quick, they grab something, they go, and you never see from them again. It's a little harder to create a personalized experience for those people. We also do a lot with big data technologies. So we've got Hadoop deployment. We use Cassandra. We use a lot of cloud infrastructure. Hive, Redshift. I don't know. I could rattle off a couple other technologies. Kind of the key is being able to leverage the experience and the expertise from the team here, particularly in the machine learning and the AI parts of the application, right? So Accenture as a company, pretty good track record, very long history of technical deployments from infrastructure, hardware, different application sets. The kind of the new stuff that they're learning and what this team brings here is the machine learning and the advanced analytics pieces of it. So it's really cool to see at this client how we're able to bring in some very experienced technical architects who can talk about the best way of architecting the server system. In this particular client, they do have sort of a combination of internal hardware behind a firewall, cloud-based hardware, that's hosted externally, as well as even their own internal private cloud that they're building out. And so it's very interesting and very cool to see how we're able to bring the best of the technology architecture and apply that from an analytics perspective and set everything up for success. Some of the stuff I'll get to a little bit later. So once we have all that done, we were able to build some of these recommended services. So some of the easy ones, kind of based on counts one. These are sort of acronyms, but I know them pretty well. So MP is most popular, right? What are the most popular items? It's pretty easy to generate, right? We look at the 30 million page views a day, and we say, which item had the most views today? Not surprising, it had the new iPhone 5s that came out a couple weeks ago, and other products that are trending are things that show up. It also gets really high engagement for customers who are just looking for kind of the new trends and new products. Also viewed is another pretty easy one. There's several different ways of computing the algorithm for also viewed, but basically we're looking at customers who viewed this item. They also looked at these items. I mean, Amazon's had this for a couple of years, and it's now on pretty much every US retailer site that I go to for very obvious reasons, right? It resonates really well with customers. It's an easier way of navigating than searching for every product individually and trying to find those pages. The last one there is also bought. So again, using the historical purchase data, customers who bought this item also bought these items. It's a really good way of cross-selling and upselling when you're towards the kind of the bottom of the conversion funnel, right? You're able to say, oh, do you need this item to supplement that item that you already have? Or a lot of other people bought this third item on the second trip. Some of the cool stuff that we're able to do in analytics is to see not only what are bought on the same transaction, but also by the same customer on multiple transactions. So it's very common that you go to the store, you buy something, oops, I forgot this other component or this other thing that I needed, and I have to go back to the store a third time. We're able to use analytics to help prevent that from happening for some of the new customers by saying, hey, other customers have ended up buying this thing, why don't you just get it now as well? So that's some pretty cool stuff to do. The more machine learning and AI ones are pretty interesting. One of the challenges with these approaches is that they're somewhat not transparent in the way that it's kind of challenging to explain why am I getting this recommendation to help me understand why this makes sense. A lot of times it's hard to say, well, the math says it makes sense. But it is something that we're kind of working on and looking at some different approaches to kind of mitigate that. It's also very valuable from a customer perspective, right? So customers want to know, why are you recommending this to me? What have I done that makes you think that I would like these products? And there's some aspects of trustworthiness and transparency that go into all recommendations that you don't want to kind of come out and say, you need these products if it's not going to make sense to a customer of why they're seeing those products, right? So it's kind of an interesting story from another US retailer, but you were using analytics and they ended up emailing a family for a bunch of like prenatal pregnancy type things. I think it was like diapers and other things like that. And basically this daughter, or she hadn't told her father that she was pregnant, right? But the analytics at this retailer, they knew that she was buying things that a lot of pregnant women buy. And so they were making recommendations that were based off that. And that's where you get into the whole trustworthiness, kind of transparency of recommendations that you have to, it's a little bit of a steep slope, and you have to be careful in that you don't alienate people, that you're getting too invasive into their privacy. So some of the other past purchase recommendations and page view recommendations that we've been working on is taking some of the data that we have available to us and using different machine learning applications to provide recommendations from that. So I think we have a couple examples in here. So specifically, this is looking at page view data and attempting to kind of have a more real-time, personalized recommendation service. So for this specific customer, sorry it's a little tiny in terms of the print, but basically yesterday, so this day -1, they were looking at some laptops. And then today, they're looking more for Nintendo video games. So they're looking at some Super Paper Mario. They're looking at some DS and some portable gaming games. And so when we run these models, a lot of the machine learning stuff is not fast, right? Especially in the Hadoop world, things are not fast. You can crunch a lot of data, but that doesn't necessarily make it fast. So there is some pre-compute that goes on, particularly in generating some very large matrices. And then at runtime, we want to mash up what they've been looking at recently with those pre-computed matrices to really build a dynamic, personalized recommender. Some of the other earlier iterations that we had, we weren't updating those matrices as people were browsing the site, and it didn't get as much engagement with the service because it was static for their whole session, right? Which isn't great in terms of recommendations. If I'm trying to recommend you products, and I have 5 products I recommend to you, and then you look at 3 other products, and I don't change what I'm recommending to you, it's a bit of a problem, right? So this is our attempt to kind of iterate on that and become a little bit more real time. And so in this case, let's see what we recommend to this person who is looking at a lot of Nintendo video games. So the sum of the similarity is basically the different similarity scores for these items that we add together. It is possible to get a little fancier with your business logic if you want to put some weights and say the first item gets 80%, the second item gets 60%. The important thing is we're recommending Nintendo DS games, other Nintendo Wii games, other things that are in the same genre of what that customer was looking at, and it's very relevant to the experience that they're having on the website. So as they're browsing, as they're looking for these different items, we're becoming more relevant with the recommendations that we're giving them. So another example we have is some of the in-cart recommendations. This one at this point is not personalized. It's one of the directions we want to go with this service, but it's basically looking at all the historical purchase data, trying to figure out, if you're going to buy this item, what are other items that complement that or go with that well? So again, looking at this Mario Kart Wii, Nintendo Wii game, this is what our also viewed and also bought products would show. So these are not necessarily machine learning applications, but these are more aggregated counts of things. And you'd see, we're referencing a couple other video games, not necessarily for the same platform, as well as people buying some of the hardware itself. In terms of our recommendations, some of the really good ones towards the top is a Wii Remote Plus, which is interesting, right? Because Mario Kart traditionally is a pretty good multiplayer game, right? There's people that'll play it by themselves, but it's a lot more fun when you've got a couple of friends with you and you all want to race together and play the game together. So it's not surprising that a lot of people buy an extra Wiimote when they buy this game. And so we're able to see that in the historical purchase data, train the models on this information, and reference not only the pink Wiimote, but also the white one and even the gaming wheel, which is specific for Mario Kart. It's a little wheel you put your Wiimote in and kind of drive around. So that's some very, very cool, very interesting ways of applying some of this advanced analytics in a retail setting. So one of the next things we're going to talk about is ratings and reviews and how we are looking to leverage that information to improve our recommendations. So at this point, we've just done a little bit of analysis on this data to kind of see what it is. Kind of gets back to Jose Luis's example of, we know this much, we know we don't know this much, and we don't know that we don't know this much, right? So one of the interesting things that our clients said after we gave this presentation to them was, yeah, this is great. It answered some questions about how ratings are relevant to our customers, but I just have so many more questions now, right? And so by going through this process, we're continually iterating and learning of new ways to apply this information and drive value for the business. So at a high level, we're looking at how do ratings relate to sales and purchases? How do they relate to page views? Does a better star rating drive more page views? Does a better star rating drive more purchases? Or is there some correlation that these things are related? So there's a somewhat telling graph. It's particularly this pie chart. There is a sliver of red at the very top for items without reviews, but the vast majority of purchases are items that have reviews. So in terms of recommendations, what does that mean to us? Well, pretty clearly, if we're going for a recommender that's based on, that's trying to improve conversion and trying to close a sale, it doesn't really make sense to recommend something that doesn't have a good star rating, right? People aren't going to buy it. They're not going to click on it. It's much more fruitful to recommend them an item that has a lot of star ratings, right? It's pretty clear from the analysis that we did that customers resonate with what other customers think, right? And it's true for me. I'm sure it's true for a lot of you guys. You find comfort in saying that I'm not the first one that's getting this thing, and I'm not going to be the guinea pig here. I'm going to be, the 100th or the 1000th person that's bought this, and they'll like it. So I'm probably going to like it too because it meets my need. It's a good product. So one of the other things we found out with this analysis is that overall, this retailer has pretty high average ratings. So at least for the items that people buy, they tend to carry a lot of really good products, which from a recommendations perspective makes it a lot easier. There's a lot more good products in the assortment to recommend to customers than there are items without purchases. So kind of getting towards the end of things, this is where I'm going to get a little bit off topic, particularly the end-to-end platform. So getting back to some of the stuff that Jose Luis was talking about, particularly in kind of the two circles of iterating through advanced analytics and some of the visualization stuff. One of the pain points we have for this particular retailer, actually it's pretty common in the US overall, but we're coming up on the holiday season, right? So November, December, January, very high volume times, very peak times for US retailers. And at the client I'm working at specifically, they go into a IT freeze, where you do not make changes without a laborious process of exceptions. And so in terms of building a lot of predictive models and iterating through that, it's somewhat constrained in the fact that in order to make a change to one of our models, we have to go through an IT deployment. And so at this point, we're very coupled between engineering and analytics and data science and research, which is somewhat constrained as we want to be able to build different models through the holiday period and even adapt them as we're learning more during the holiday period and become more relevant this year so that we add value. So one of the things we're looking at doing is building out a framework which allows multiple models to be generated and served up dynamically through a series of APIs that we can control and do experiments with in terms of which users get which content served up to them. So we have some ability to do experimental tests in terms of the different algorithms that we're using and providing recommendations from. So also be the basis of how we start to become more personalized. It might not be too far in the future where every customer has a different algorithm that's providing their content for them. Just because everyone's a little bit different, we want to train a different model for them. Kind of this framework allows us to iterate through that, build a lot of different models, deploy them quickly into production without the need for an IT deployment. So a lot of this train of thought is somewhat borrowed from LinkedIn. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with that company. They have published some pretty interesting articles that talk about how they've really decoupled their engineering practice from their data science and research practice. And it really gives the data science, the analytics teams, a lot more independence from the traditional flow of either waterfall or agile engineering practice. So that's what we are looking at implementing at this client. It's really to help build out that end-to-end platform in terms of digital transformation and be able to have the flexibility to ingest whatever kind of data you have. So part of this goes back to the original challenge I talked about where their online analytics was a little bit separate from their offline analytics. This is getting to kind of the concept of a data lake or a data pool, basically your big Hadoop environment that has every data point that you have in it. And then being able to use that data, build models quickly on top of it, and serve it out dynamically through various services or APIs. So some of the other lessons is, prioritization is very, very important in this work. One of the things I'm constantly reminding our clients is, hey, is this work personalized? Is this helping us on our journey to become more personalized? The more time we spend on some of those aggregated services, we're taking away time that we could be spending from becoming more personalized. So prioritization is a constant challenge. Also, client knowledge is very important. It's very challenging to be good at analytics if you don't have an understanding of the data that you're working with. So to kind of get back to the social examples, it's great to say, yeah, let's use Facebook's data, or let's use Twitter's data. But if you don't understand their data model, if you don't understand the data that's exposed through there and the way that people engage with those applications, it's very challenging to use that data in a valuable way. And it's very true with a lot of our clients' data as well. You have to know kind of the discipline that they're in, as well as what their customers expect from them to really make the most out of your digital intelligence. Cutting edge technology, we use whatever we can to provide value. There's a lot of open source technologies that we're able to leverage. And I think the last one that'll really drive home is the test and learn. In order to become more personalized, I don't think anyone really has the answers, right? There's no executive at these clients that say, this is the answer, this is how we do personalization. The executives say, we need personalization, we need to be more relevant, but the process, the way of getting there is to test and learn. And we're not gonna just magically overnight become more personalized. It's gonna be an ongoing iterative process, and they're starting to build a culture around that to kind of support that. So like I was saying, in terms of failure, you might try something that might not work. It's culturally, that's typically not been allowed at the client that I work at, but they're starting to shift culturally to say, it's okay if we fail. We'll pick up the pieces as long as we, don't have it broken for weeks or months at a time. We have the ability to go and fix it and remediate it and build more brand loyalty with our customers and say, hey, we heard you. That didn't work. We're sorry. We're going to try something different next time. Yeah, and I think the last point in green is very important. A lot of this personalization recommendations is a win-win, right? We're helping the customer. We're helping them find the right products for them. We're not trying to just push things that we get higher margin on or push things that we have a lot of inventory on. It's getting the right products for those people. And at the same time, that helps the company, right? That helps the company become better with its brand loyalty, increase revenues, reduce churn in customers. And I don't know if anyone doesn't like win-wins, but it's a great system in my point of view. I think that's about it. Muchas gracias.